Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Monday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The regular season kicks off this week. Darvin Ham has his starting lineup, but is there an asterisk in there? We'll tell you about it next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everyone for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. It's always free, never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show, hang out with upwards of 21,000 subscribers who are all talking to each other, talking to us, getting ready for tomorrow's regular season opener against the Nuggets up in Denver, a rematch of the Western Conference Finals. Want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Andy, how many season openers now is this for us covering the Lakers in one form or another, whether with ESPN, The Athletic, this, Locked On? What are we on?
I recently counted this and I kept like triple checking because I'm like, it sounds like too many.
Yeah.
But I actually think this is the 19th season we will have covered the Lakers. It sounds like too many, but I'm telling you, our first one was the 2005-2006 season, Phil Jackson's first season upon his return, the beginning of the Smush Parker, Kwame Brown era, the year of Kobe's 35 point per game average, 81, the string of 50-point games, the season where he outscored Dallas in three quarters, the season, quite frankly, in retrospect, he should have won MVP.
Yes, he should.
That season, that was our first. Okay, let's go through this right now. You tell me if I'm effing this up. 0506, 607,
I believe
708,
right.
809, 910, 10 11, 11 12, 12 13, 13 14, 14 15, 15 16, 16 17, 17 18, 18 19, 19 20, 20 21, 22, 20 23, 23 24. That's 19. It doesn't seem accurate.
I know we're not allowed to curse on the show, but bleep, we're come on. So, we've been at this for a while, and I have to say, I am as excited about the beginning of this season as I have been really for any in recent, even going back to like the first year of LeBron, because when LeBron first got here, I mean, people kind of, maybe that was not a team that was instantly expected to contend for a title. It was going to be a process, and Bron was going to bring the kids along, and then he decided he didn't like that plan and get rid of them. I would say the only equivalent, maybe the first year of AD, because the expectations were so high.
The expectations were high that season,
and there was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of excitement about getting them together.
Well, there was a lot of excitement, but there was also at the same time a lot of, okay, what the hell is going on? Because that was also the offseason of Luke Walton getting fired, Magic Johnson resigning, Frank Vogel's chaotic introductory press conference where he became an afterthought, the debacle coaching search. There had actually been a fair amount of chaos and skepticism leading up to that point, despite the fact that you were actually teaming up LeBron and Anthony Davis.
You're right. And that's probably why I don't remember, you're much better at remembering like I have to go back and look up what happened every season because my brain doesn't hold that information anymore. But yeah, and so certainly not the Westbrook season. I was not looking forward to that. The season, year 2 of Westbrook, really wasn't looking forward to that. And this one, though, you go through, it was a great offseason with excellent vibes and a great camp filled with great vibes. And I realize vibes are just vibes, but vibes are important. And you go back through and you combine that, Andy, I think in my mind, with real tangible results in the preseason that show you that, okay, what they put together looks good. It makes sense when the lineups that are actually going to be out on the floor in real games were playing, the Lakers look pretty good. Not flawless, but pretty good. And so I put it together like there's no drama. It's exciting. There's stability. I am ready to go. Let's do this.
Yeah, there's still some issues that need to be figured out. I think particularly in the second unit, some of the configurations they're going to be there. Christian Wood has not looked particularly comfortable or effective, even as a scorer so far in this training camp. We've seen not
he's looked, Andy. Wooden.
We've not seen.
Don't make me make the LeBron train noise again. I'll do it.
I know you will. That's the problem. We haven't seen a lot of Gabe Vincent, how he looks with this group. Jarred Vanderbilt has been out for basically the entire preseason. So where he fits into all of this, I think there's a little bit of questions right now with Wood and Rui when it comes to potential redundancy, that sort of things. But if nothing else, what's become the starting five, which, as we will talk about, may not remain the starting five, that group has been absolutely dynamic for reasons that totally make sense on paper and on the court. And there's no reason to be skeptical that it can't work.
And even the issue of, and we'll talk about it with Vincent here in a second, we'll talk about it with Wood and Hayes and whatever, even the issues of like the second unit are not configured, I wonder how we're going to maximize this. What happens when Vanderbilt comes back and all this kind of stuff. It's not, where are they going to find two more decent players to play in a 9-man rotation? Like, that's not a problem that the Lakers have. Currently, the problem is, can you play 11? Can you play 10? Like, how are we doing this here? I would much rather be the team approaching it with that problem rather than the one where you have to kind of cross your fingers and hope a couple guys make some leaps. Or not really counting on that this year, which is nice.
Or you have to do that with guys playing out of position,
right?
The super small at the 3 lineups, the Patrick Beverly as a quasi small forward lineups, like that defensively, that sort of stuff. Like the Lakers right now, can you find weaknesses in the lineup? Sure, you can find weaknesses in every single lineup across the NBA.
Correct.
Even the teams that are considered the biggest front runners for a championship. You can
Jaylen Brown can't dribble with his left hand, Andy. I've been reading the internet.
You can find something in all of them, but the Lakers I would say they are on paper as well situated in ways that people are outwardly confident about heading into this year. I might say, the example I'm about to give ultimately proved to be mistaken, but I'm just talking about what it looked like on paper and the confidence people were feeling. I would say maybe, other than maybe the 2020, 2021, because people were excited just because they were defending a championship, but there were still some questions about, okay, how much of a bubble tax are the Lakers going to pay? The answer was a lot. I don't know if there's been this type of excitement and also anticipation of a big season since the Kobe, Powell, Dwight, Nash season, which, again, everyone turned out to be wrong, but everybody thought that was going to be a juggernaut. So that level of excitement's fun.
Certainly Sports Illustrated did. God, freezing cold takes of covers, to say the very least. All right, let's get into that starting lineup question, though, because that is a big one. It is one that Darvin Ham lent some clarity to over the weekend, sort of, and we'll tell you about it next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Game Time, and several years ago, some friends of mine and I, we went to go see LL Cool J in LA, really last minute. Didn't know how to go about getting tickets for the sold-out show. Ended up trying out a scalper, and the scalper did what scalpers do. He rooked us.
He scalped you.
Yes, he did. They were fake tickets.
And
and after that experience, I was like, I will never, ever just leave myself in a corner without an outlet to the event I want to go to, because getting tickets should not be stressful. That's why I love Game Time. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy shows, and theater near you. And with killer deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and get hyped for the fun. Game Time offers images of seat views. They offer the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always find the best price. And if you can find tickets in the same section a row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. They are the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. So buy tickets in a matter of seconds. Snag the tickets without the stress using Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
So over the weekend, Darvin revealed what everybody kind of figured was going to happen for Tuesday, that Taurean Prince is going to be in the starting five, starting at small forward. And you and I, along with most people, have seen this as like the lineup that he was going to go with and probably the starting lineup going forward. But he did not. There were some caveats in there. He noted that Jarred Vanderbilt was kind of unavailable, and that putting Prince in the starting lineup was situational to some degree because of that. So what did you make of Darvin? I don't know, adding some, whether caveats are the right word, whatever it is, to this declaration about the starting five?
Well, first of all, it's disappointing because for so long we thought or hoped or whatever that Darvin was adding so much drama to this fifth starter thing, refusing to name who it would be when it felt very obviously Taurean Prince up until the really last minute, because we were hoping he was just unnecessarily but really fun trolling everyone and just adding theater and drama to what's been otherwise a really, unremarkable training camp in the best possible way, just drama free. Turns out he actually may have been hedging, like actually by hedging, telling the truth that he really had not made up his mind. Because you had mentioned the word situational to describe this. I would say it's actually more circumstantial. Like the idea that Jarred Vanderbilt, we don't even know if he's going to be available for Tuesday. He is listed as day to day, but I think the expectation is that he won't be available.
Questionable. I've seen questionable.
But he also, though, had he been more available throughout training camp to make, this was the one spot that there was a legitimate battle for that spot. It sounds like Darvin, if nothing else, had been pretty curious about, pretty open towards running back that group that they were running with that got them, into the playoffs. And it was a lineup that they used a lot throughout the playoffs. So it being circumstantial leads me to believe that if nothing else, Darvin is still mulling over the possibility of eventually going to Jarred Vanderbilt, or wondering, could there be reasons that they actually need Vanderbilt? I suspect specifically the defensive versatility he gives them guarding guards and wings, but also to the potential rebounding issues between Prince and Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing. And, obviously when you have to tilt your defense a little bit more to protect against rebounding, you can't run as much, all that. So it makes sense. And look, as good, Andy, as this lineup has looked in the preseason, I don't begrudge Darvin in the slightest, because it's not like he's waiting around for some lineup to experiment with that seems odd or, it's gimmicky or something like that. This is a lineup that, as you said, got them into the playoffs, that they used through much of it. There are some games, obviously, where they switched up the lineup and stuff. But generally speaking, this is the lineup that got them to the Western Conference Finals, broadly. It's not like running it back with that is a ridiculous idea. So I don't blame him for being interested in it. I wouldn't surprise me based on that if we see a little bit of mixing and matching with him and Vanderbilt. What I am happy to see is that there does not seem to be any indication that Hachimura is going to be the guy that slides in there. Not to start.
Yeah. Darvin said that he thought that they could get just essentially more bang for their buck, literally and figuratively, from Rui as a scorer when he's actually coming off the bench, can be in more of a featured role. It's frankly what I've thought this entire offseason. I've been pretty big proponent of playing Rui off the bench, because I actually think you're not going to get nearly the same utility from him if he starts. If he still has the opportunity to close, which he has said means more to him than starting, he's still going to get the opportunity to get minutes, which he's also said means more to him than starting. Rui off the bench raises some questions, as we've seen this preseason, about whether or not he and Christian Wood actually fit together, because they both sort of feel like the sixth man of the team, but there can really only be one sixth man. And
unless they enter at exactly the same time every night,
I guess. But functionally, there's still going to only
Correct.
be one sixth man. And I got to be honest, I feel like if you got to choose between one of them, you're going to be choosing Rui, particularly
for sure.
as we're talking about, or we're going to talk about, Jackson Hayes has been much better and much cleaner a fit with this group so far than Wood.
Yeah, and that we'll say that for the last segment, but everything else kind of makes sense. And there's a little bit, I guess, of questioning as to, how much really is Max Christie going to play? I think at the beginning of the season, they'll try to make that work, give him like real backup minutes behind Reeves. We didn't see
Cam Reddish has not turned that into a battle.
No, he did not. It's less about, it's not to me at all about Christie versus Reddish. It's just Christie or some other lineup. Like are you going to play D'Lo and Vincent together a lot? Are you, how many minutes does Reeves play? Are you going to push Reeves back to the two?
Essentially 3-guard or 4-guard lineup.
Right. How are you going to do this? If Prince, but I don't think Cam Reddish has anything to do with it. Vincent, we didn't see a lot of in the preseason, but it's easy to see how he fits in. Like
and he's on track to play. Just to clarify, he is on track to play on Tuesday.
Like the lineups with Rui and LeBron makes sense, and and then this Jackson Hayes thing, which gets into what we're going to talk about with Christian Wood in the last segment. Wood is really the only, to me, question mark that they came out of camp with, where they couldn't quite answer, how we doing this? What does it look like? Because even if you're starting, if you start Prince, what it looks like. If you start Vanderbilt, what it looks like. And if you move Prince to the bench, that's not that complicated either. It's really just that one thing with Christian Wood as like the fit there. How do you maximize what he's doing? So let's dig into that a little bit more next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel, and you can enjoy the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you bet $5, just $5, and you can get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. You can use those bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, futures, all sorts of fun stuff. The app is really easy to use, fun experience, everything, all those options right there at your fingertips. Obviously, there are NBA props that you can bet on as well. Opening night, the Lakers are, as of this recording, 4.5-point dogs on the road in Denver against the Nuggets and chatty Mike Malone. The line actually has shifted a point in the Lakers' favor. Anthony Davis, 30-1 bet for MVP. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Kick off the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
It's interesting. Hayes referred to himself as a glue guy this weekend, which we didn't ask this question when we talked to our friends at Locked On Pelicans, but had we, Andy, I am willing to bet that they would not have referred to Jackson Hayes as a glue guy based on his tenure with the Pellies.
No, he did. I don't think so. He said, quote, "My job is to come here and make the team better, be the little glue guy on defense and on offense. Guys are going to come out, shoot 20 shots a game. I'm going to shoot whatever shots I'm given. But on the defensive end, I'm here to play good defense, guard the rim, and like you mentioned, be a guy that can come in for AD and pick up where he left off when he comes out of games, guarding the rim or switching on to guards." So again, talking about doing some of the proverbial little things.
And like, when you watch the preseason, I'm not surprised, and I'm not trying to pick on the guy, but I'm not surprised to hear him talk like that, because there are two things that I think are really working in Hayes' favor. First of all, I think the fresh start thing is really making a difference. Like it wasn't going to work in New Orleans. I don't know how much was his fault. I don't know how much was their fault. It's probably a healthy combination of both. But the fresh start thing can make a huge difference. I think it's making a huge one here. The simplification of his role is also, I think, for a guy like Hayes, can be super liberating. And you see it, Andy, in the enthusiasm that he had during the preseason. Like the energy coming off of that guy and the excitement and all that stuff was, I mean, it jumped through your TV screen.
Yeah. First of all, you notice when he plays, he's always smiling. Like he's got a really infectious smile and kind of just aura.
Oh, he's rich.
Well, I mean,
and
sure.
Super athletic and young.
I mean, there are plenty of super athletic, rich NBA guys who never smile.
I'm just saying, I would be one. I'd be one that smiles a lot. I'd be happy all the time.
Sure. But nonetheless, that's just sort of what he projects when he's out there. The other thing when it comes to like that fresh start, and when you'd mentioned if we had talked to Jake Madison with Locked On Pelicans and asked him if he would have described Jackson Hayes as a glue guy, the answer would have been a very definitive no. To some degree, that can't be held against Jackson Hayes because when you're drafted in the top 10, correct, you are not asked to be a glue guy.
Nope.
Like in certain respects, him being a glue guy would be considered disappointing. And were I to guess, the Pelicans went very far out of their way to avoid him ever becoming a glue guy, because that would mean they really wasted that top 10 pick on Jackson Hayes. I believe he was 8th overall. That was the pick that they got.
Something like that, yeah.
It was, I think one of the picks that they ultimately got for the AD trade.
Mm-hmm.
So this is now something that Jackson Hayes is doing that maybe he was always better suited to do to begin with, and it happens a lot where guys are drafted really high, and it's not that they're not NBA players if they can't be stars. It's just they weren't meant to be stars. But there's a lot of space in between star and total bust.
And it can be hard to figure out when you need to make that transition. Certain guys, different drafts, different years. If you're drafted 26th in becoming a glue guy, that's fine. But when you're in the lottery, that's a thing. Like generally speaking, the hope is if it's a halfway decent draft with halfway decent depth, that maybe you're not an all-star, but maybe you're something close. Maybe you become it. Like that's what teams are looking for in the lottery. And when do you figure out, okay, like that's like Taurean Prince had to figure that out. He was a lottery pick. He had to figure that out. I think somebody like Vanderbilt maybe was drafted a little bit more with the idea that he might not develop into a star, but Jackson Hayes, that wasn't the deal. So when do you figure it out? Well, when you go to a new team that signs you for a minimum and you're what you're expected to do and asked to do is made abundantly clear, and it's super simple. But I mean, I brought up the question of vibes at the beginning of the show, and Hayes to me is a great example of that, of like the importance of it. And he reminds me of JaVale, not just because of the way that they play, like they bring back that vertical threat, the running, the crazy athleticism, all that kind of stuff that was been missing since then. And you see how useful it is. But also JaVale was really important for the vibes on that team.
Oh yeah.
Really important. And veteran leadership. By the time JaVale got to the Lakers, he was a wizened player and had a lot to offer. And I'm not saying Hayes is that, but JaVale was just a positive influence on what they were doing all the time inside that building. And I feel like in a different way, that can be something that Hayes is building towards. It seems JaVale, like, again, externally.
Well, JaVale also had to reinvent himself as somebody who could be seen as a positive vibes guy, because for a long time, he was considered a vibes guy, but it was more just like, vibes at the club, or like, like
just goofiness, eccentricities.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's vibes, but more vibes if you want to create like a really awesome Instagram account, but not necessarily vibes that help an NBA team win. Or, like vibes as a persona and, the Pierre alter ego. And like we covered JaVale. We loved it. Like he was great. And even before then, like in Washington and Denver or Philly, like a lot of that stuff, I'm not going to lie and say I didn't think it was funny. but it clearly wasn't working for him reputationally.
Right.
And it bothered him for quite a while that he was considered basically this dumbass in
That's
the
the part.
NBA.
I was going to say, if you didn't say it, I was going to, because of all the stuff, flaky, quirky. JaVale is quirky. He's not flaky, but he's quirky. But he's not dumb.
No, he's a
And
really
I think
bright
he
guy.
really started to resent the idea that people translated goofiness, quirkiness
On
into
court
stupid.
mistakes. Yeah.
Yes, because he is not stupid.
Right.
He's a really bright guy.
And look, I mean, I don't think Jackson Hayes, in this type of comparison, he hasn't created anything close to the the off-court persona as JaVale. I mean, like, I don't think most people, including us, have any real impression of Jackson Hayes' personality type.
Not that we need to go deep down this road. I think the only real off-court stuff that people have or off idea of anything about the guy, if they have any at all, is the trouble that he's found off the court. But I think when you compare this to Wood, for example, and I don't mean this to say that Wood has come in here with a bad attitude or has brought bad vibes, because he hasn't. But I think the challenge of Wood makes it harder for him to be bubbly and all this kind of stuff. He's sort of figuring it out. It's a different set of expectations inside the team. The team is clearly having fun with Wood every day. Anthony Davis, trolls him a little bit about something, which is a great sign. He's doing it out of love and out of fun, but it hasn't meshed in that way, because I think it is harder for Wood to figure out how he fits in than it is for Hayes.
Well, I mean, Hayes is being asked to play to all of his strengths, but in a very specific, in certain respects, narrow way. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to do a thing else other than these 3 or 4 things.
Please don't.
Right. Well, but also, too, none of them involve the ball unless it happens to come to you. And Hayes even said himself, he does not expect to get, a certain amount of shots. I'm not sure he expects to get any shots. He knows he's going to get a few, but he doesn't expect to get any. And he understands the ball will find him when it needs to find him. Otherwise, go to the other stuff. For Christian Wood, what you do if the ball doesn't find you is something that, quite frankly, he has not established really over the course of his career, other than, and to his credit, he's done this well in training camp, rebounding. Like, he's done a solid job rebounding in training camp. He's averaging a little under 5 rebounds per game in about 17 minutes per 36, a little under 10, which is basically in line for his regular season averages. And that's really helpful. The Lakers last year were a really odd team in that they both secured a lot of defensive rebounds and gave up a lot of offensive rebounds, which sounds impossible, but they managed to do it.
Rebounding, wouldn't you agree? Rebounding at least sets up to be one of their weaknesses this year.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Quite possibly. So, I mean, it's not that Christian Wood has offered no utility during training camp at all, because I don't think that would be fair to him, but he has not looked comfortable. He has not looked nearly, if nothing else, like the scorer that's expected. He hasn't always looked like he knows what to do with himself if he isn't scoring. And then in the meantime, the defense, frankly, has been as bad as advertised. And you wonder about the conditioning. He does not look conditioned right now.
Yeah,
or you hope that he isn't.
Right. And I don't know if he is or isn't, or if he came into camp in bad shape or whatever. But I do think one of the things that Hayes was not with the team last year. Easy to integrate, simple job. Go be athletic, jumpy, bouncy, finish at the rim. Taurean Prince not with the team last year, being slid into a role that is Taurean Prince to a T. Go do Taurean Prince stuff, and plus he's just an easy guy to drop into a lineup. You look a step slow when everybody else around you is comfortable, knows what they're doing, feels good. But sometimes looks Woodish out there is Cam Reddish, because I don't think he knows what is exactly how he's supposed to fit in either. And so there's sometimes when Reddish can just sort of be explosive and work through it, but other times he looks really damn confused. And I think on a scale of 1 to 10, this is like a 4 in terms of like critical experiments the Lakers are working with. And I feel really comfortable with them, and we can, wrap it here. This is really the only experiment they're running right now. And if this is it, I don't think it's going to hurt them that bad to figure it out. And there's still a chance for a really nice payoff with how this goes. So super comfortable with this being where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are as far as issues for teams that want to be contenders, these are pretty first world problems.
No question about that. All right. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you're going to see the show, hang out with 21,000 folks, leave questions, leave comments. We want to hear what you guys are thinking about opening night. Leave us your questions, comments, thoughts about what you're expecting, what you're looking for, both tonight for Tuesday night and for Thursday night against the Suns, the home opener. So, and we will see everybody on Tuesday.